Jane Austen began her task of writing Persuasion on August 8, 1815, and after 2 revisions, she completed it on August 6, 1816. But curiously, she did not move to have it published. In a letter Austen wrote to her niece Fanny Knight on March 13, 1817, of Persuasion she said, "I have something ready for publication which may perhaps appear about 12 months hence. It is short, about the length of Catherine." And Catherine is the name of a story that she wrote, which eventually became Northanger Abbey. Unfortunately for Austen, she passed away about 4 months after this letter, and so both Persuasion and Northanger Abbey were published posthumously. Anne Elliot, the heroine of our story, is a 27-year-old single woman. She's the daughter of a baronet. She's intelligent, sweet, and highly regarded by almost everyone who knows her. By the time we meet Anne, we could describe her as steadfast in her convictions, and yet we're told she was offered marriage by not one, but 2 different men, and she said no to both of them. She said no, not because she wanted to, but because she was persuaded to by her father and a close friend. How can she be steadfast in her convictions, yet easily persuaded into doing the opposite of what she desires? Well, of course, there's more to this story. As we delve into Anne's world, we'll see a world that is filled with family dynamics and societal expectations. Austen leads us through Anne's journey of self-discovery, personal growth, and the hope of second chances. So, who is Anne Elliot? She is the second of 3 daughters. Elizabeth is the oldest, Mary the youngest. She had a brother, but he was stillborn. She is the daughter of Sir Walter Elliot, a baronet, and Lady Elliot. Lady Elliot died when Anne was 13. Sir Walter never remarried. He said he never remarried for his daughter's sake, but really it was for Elizabeth. Sir Walter had a lot of affection for Elizabeth. She reminded him of himself. She was attractive like he, and had his same mindset. She was clearly his favorite. The other 2 daughters were of inferior value. Sir Walter and Elizabeth were quite vain. Lady Russell, who was besties with Lady Elliot, stayed friends with the family and helped raise the girls after Lady Elliot's passing. She sees her friend in Anne. Anne looks like her mother and has her mother's intellect and sweet character. This is why Lady Russell seems to show more affection for Anne than the other 2. Curiously, Anne's looks and personality are precisely the things her father doesn't like about her. Right off, we find out that Sir Walter has run up a sizable debt. Apparently, Lady Elliot was more sensible, and she kept Sir Walter's spending and his behavior in check. Now that she's gone, Sir Walter cannot control himself. Of course, in his mind, he has only spent what was necessary. Like so many from that time period, he had hoped that he could marry off his daughters to help with his finances. At this point, Elizabeth is his only hope.
Help me, Obi-Wan Kenobi. You're my only hope.
In his mind, she is the most attractive of the 3 daughters. Anne is not attractive enough for anyone to want her. Mary has already married, but that came with prestige and no money. Elizabeth was supposed to marry William Walter Elliot, who was their heir to Sir Walter's estate. William Elliot had 2 failings. He found Sir Walter an embarrassment, and he didn't care about rank. Oh my goodness. He didn't want to wait to inherit the baronetcy or Kellynch Hall, so he married a wealthy woman of inferior birth.
I haven't got a brain.
Well, what would you do with a brain if you had one?
Since he only trusts Elizabeth's opinions, he asked her for advice on how they could deal with the financial problems. Elizabeth immediately put her mind to thinking on how they could get out of this situation. She offered up that they stop giving to lesser charities and don't redecorate the drawing room. Oh, and don't give Anne the present that was the annual custom. Elizabeth took a little too much pleasure with that idea. Can you guess how these changes worked out for them? Well, unfortunately for both the baronet and Miss Elizabeth, she is of the same mindset, and she doesn't want to change her lifestyle any more than her father. So as you can imagine, these changes did not help, so they were forced to look for help from their friends, Mr. Shepherd and Lady Russell. Mr. Shepherd was a coward and suggested they see what Lady Russell thinks. And Lady Russell does the unthinkable. she asks Anne what Anne thinks. Anne, being only one of the 4 Elliots to have any sensibility, helped Lady Russell come up with a way to get Sir Walter out of debt in 7 years, if he would accept all of the changes. Of course, he said no to all of them. He would rather leave Kellynch Hall than do without. Ooh, suddenly Mr. Shepherd has found his spine, and he offers some advice. They move from Kellynch Hall to some place where Sir Walter can afford and lease Kellynch Hall. Everyone thinks this is a good idea. The potential places to move were London, Bath, and somewhere in the country. Mr. Shepherd thinks London is a bad idea because Sir Walter won't be able to control himself there. Anne wanted the country so she could stay near Kellynch Hall, Lady Russell, and Mary. She most definitely did not want Bath. So Bath it was. Sir Walter leased Kellynch to an Admiral and Mrs. Croft. Being such a small world, Mrs. Croft is the sister of Anne's ex-fiancé, Captain Frederick Wentworth. Ex-fiancé, because he was just a sailor with no money, no rank, and no guarantee of either. Anne didn't care and wanted to marry him anyway. Frederick knew he was of low birth and not worthy of such a match, but he believed that he would attain proper rank and wealth through the Navy and would eventually be worthy of such a match. Her father never explicitly said no, but he made it clear he disapproved. But it was Lady Elliot who forced the breakup. She insisted the engagement was wrong, indiscreet, improper, doomed to fail, and he wasn't deserving of such a marriage, considering his position in society. When Anne broke off the engagement, he was so hurt and angry that he left the country feeling that the Elliots and Lady Russell mistreated him, especially Anne. As for Anne, she never got over him. She went on with her life, and 3 years later, Charles Musgrove asked her to marry him. Anne considered the marriage, but she said no because of her feelings for Frederick, and also, again, Lady Russell. Lady Russell thought that Charles Musgrove was not of high enough rank to be a good match for Anne. In keeping with the times, Charles simply asked Mary to marry him after Anne turned him down. I wonder if this caused any awkwardness at family gatherings, at least in the beginning. Okay, so now we know the setup. Anne is alone because her one true love is gone because of her, because she allowed people to persuade her not to marry him. Anne is also mistreated by her family, whose vanity makes them unable or unwilling to see how wonderful she is. Add the loss of her mother to the mix, and we're now all rooting for Anne to find love and happiness, and get away from those people who really aren't worthy of her time or her presence.